everyone, Smiley here. Happy Monday. How are you all doing today? Just wanted to see if anyone is around. I wanted to talk about patience, how patient you are, and if you are good at sitting with your feelings and coming from a place of responding, or if you act out and are triggered by your feelings. I've been putting a lot of posts up over the weekend about taking our time and letting things grow, and yeah, I think in this world where one click and it's ours, we're sort of hoodwinked really into instant gratification. When it comes to self-development and knowing yourself, having a relationship with yourself, like any good relationship, it takes time. So what I want you to think about today is, do you sit with your feelings and connect with them and listen to what they're telling you, even the uncomfortable ones, or do you just react from a place of fear or worry or anger or frustration? And you know, often when we're triggered by our children, it's coming from an old wound. So our children break us open because they press all our buttons. And so if you know your triggers as a parent, that's really helpful for looking at that. Imagine that when your child is born, it's like being given an empty packet of seeds. So there's no label on the seeds, so you can't project your own label onto the seeds and say, I want my child to be a baseball player, or I want my child to be a footballer, or an amazing pianist. Or it's an empty packet of seeds, and your job is to give them the right conditions to grow in. But what happens as parents is we go and we prod the soil and we say, oh, they're not growing. And then they grow a bit, and then we look at our neighbour's garden and go, oh, their seeds are like growing like twice, their plants are twice as big as mine, or my seeds aren't right. Something wrong with my seeds. What's wrong with my seeds? We'll water them, and we're always messing about with them. And actually, the trees that bear the greatest fruit are the ones that take the longest time to grow. And so if you see your child like an empty packet of seeds, you don't know what you're going to get. Life is like a box of chocolates, but it's your job to watch and listen and make sure that your child gets what they need. And that's why I'm saying, how hard is it for you to be patient, and how hard is it for you to trust your child and trust yourself and trust the process of life, to know that if your child is sitting in an energy that's positive, that has good values and morals, that's loving and kind, and not, God, I hate loud noises like that, not punishing, that's why I hate loud noises, not punishing or conditional. If you give them the right environment, they will just flourish and be the person that they've come here to be. So what that empty packet of seeds needs more than anything is the connection with you, is the relationship with you. You are the mirror, you feed back to them what they need. I think if you ask yourself what stops you from sitting there and letting stuff play out, is if you're somebody who's overly responsible or likes to feel in control, then you are going to want to keep on. So we call this sometimes helicopter parenting, or hovering, where parents hover over their children in everything, and it's too much. How do you know it's too much? Well, your child will tell you if it's too much. You know, your child will start to butt up against you and let you know that actually they don't want you to do that. And that becomes a bit of a power struggle. So a lot of parents in coaching are triggered by not knowing. So I'll give you an example of that, and it's my "we don't sell peas" analogy. So when I used to do the workshops, and this has happened recently, we coach children in the workshops, and often we send them home with their artwork, and we say to parents as feedback, here's some helpful blogs on that subject, come to the energy pod if you want to explore further. Your child will know what their artwork means, and we send out a feedback card, I think a couple of weeks afterwards in the post, where the children have identified and written their own goals for coaching. So parents left not knowing what that means and having to trust their child, that can be triggering for some parents. And the reason they're triggered is because they don't trust easily. They don't trust us, they don't trust their child, they don't trust the process. They feel like they need to interfere. Now, the minute you start prodding and poking around on the seeds, all the lovely magic and work that your children have done at the workshop is lost, because it now becomes about you and what you want for your child, not what your child thinks they need and not what your child is tuned into. Does that make sense? So we had an incident recently where a parent didn't want to, was saying, well, we would expect some feedback, and we wrote back to the parent and we said, as we state on our website very clearly, our professional boundaries are that we are not coaching parents, we're just coaching children, and you need to trust the process and you need to trust us, a bit like you do at school. You don't go up to school every day and check in with the teacher and say, are you following the curriculum? You trust. But a parent who doesn't feel safe and that wants to control, and there's a reason why that is, and I'll talk about that in a minute, will not trust easily, and will definitely not trust uncertainty, and will definitely be uncomfortable with the unknown. That's me. I am that person too. But you're always looking for safety outside of yourself if you're that person. And that's because at a very basic level, when you were a child, so there is a hierarchy of needs, and on a base level, food, shelter, safety and warmth. Oh, I've just dropped a piece of paper. Food, shelter, safety and warmth were what you needed at a basic level. Because you didn't get that, you don't know how to cultivate it inside yourself. So what you do is you look for safety in other people, you look for safety in things, you get attached to things, you get attached to money, you get attached to toys, you get attached to people, you get attached to outcomes, because you need to control something. But the bottom line is that safety lives inside of you. It doesn't live outside of you, and that's what happens when you're externally focused and you're not focused on here. And when you're reacting from your triggers, you're externally focused on trying to control something outside of you. When you're internally focused on what's going on inside you and how you're responding to that, you can come from a different place. Am I making sense? Have I lost you? But the we don't sell peas analogy, we kept trying to write to this lady and say, but we don't provide that feedback, and we say that's not possible on the website. And then she started to split hairs and say, well, we would have thought it's not possible, but why can't you do that? And we were saying, but we don't go into a workshop with a head on that looks to give feedback to parents. We turn up to a workshop to be mindfully present so that we can respond to the 10 children that stand in front of us. So we can't go into a workshop with a parent's agenda in mind, because we're doing the workshop for the children. So I was trying to respond to this lady, and I was saying, it's a bit like you're going into Waitrose and saying, can I buy some peas? And we're saying, oh no, we've run out of peas. But you could go to Sainsbury's or Morrison's and get some peas. They've got peas. And then the customer becomes really irate and says, but I want your peas. And we're saying, but we don't sell peas, so you can't actually get peas here, but you can get them somewhere else. And, you know, sometimes people know you don't sell peas, so we can't give you peas if we don't sell them. But this woman got really cross with us and said, basically kind of rubbished what we'd done, and we hadn't met her expectations, and she was really upset with us. But what she had done was not respected our professional framework, our professional boundaries for getting the best out of our children. We have been experienced in this for a number of years, and so it was frustrating. But what that lady lacked was boundaries. She lacked boundaries for us and respect for us, but she also lacked boundaries with her son. She didn't see herself as separate from her son. She is one person, he is another. She doesn't need to be like this with him in order for him to learn. In fact, if she does that, she's picking around in the soil at the seeds and stopping them from growing. So, and that's what's really hard. It's like, how hands-on or how hands-off do you need to be as a parent? Now, that depends on so many things. That depends on the temperament of your child, your child's age, your child's developmental experience, you know, like where they are in their development. You know your child, so it's in your best interest to make sure you go to work on the relationship with that child and getting to know them as a person on an emotional level, connecting with them like that, instead of trying to control the environment and everyone else around them. And also, I think coming with this instant gratification and not being able to be patient is looking for tools and quick fixes. So when parents come to coaching, they're always going, what should we be doing? What should we be doing? What should we be doing? What about if we were just being? What if we were just being with our worries and anger? We weren't doing anything. Oh no, we can't do that. That feels too uncomfortable. But the point is, life is uncomfortable, isn't it? And it's messy and shit happens, quite frankly. And the more we can sit with the shit that's happening, and the more we can be comfortable with the messiness and the uncomfortableness, the more patient we become. And the more still and patient we become, and the more silence and space we give our children, the more they get to know themselves, and the more they grow, and the more we can observe and understand their relationship and learn stuff about ourselves through it. So that's, you know, that's my We Don't Sell Peas story. Please, people, stop asking me for things that I can't give you. I don't sell peas, so I can't give them to you. And actually, when you're really rude to me and you don't respect my boundaries, I'm not selling anything to you, because that doesn't work for me either. It's a shame, because I think the way that lady responded was because she was coming from a wounded place. She was triggered. She felt like she'd asked, she had an expectation of what was going to happen, and it didn't happen. But instead of coming back and asking questions and being curious and trying to understand what happened, she got quite aggressive, which is kind of like a fight response, a stress response to being triggered. So you go fight, flight, or freeze, or fawn. So this is why I'm now doing the energy pod, because actually you're going to learn through your children. So there's none of that going on. So I don't have to set boundaries with parents and say, you know, this isn't for you to know. I'm saying come along to the energy pod and do it as a team effort. And actually today we're talking about the energy of patience. And patience is a learned skill. So it's not innate in us. And obviously some temperaments will be more patient than others. A laid back, relaxed temperament will be more patient, whereas a spirited child or an anxious temperament will find it harder to sit with uncomfortable feelings. But I think how much you want to control things is a reflection of how unsafe you feel inside. And safety comes from within here. You won't find it out here. And you'll just waste energy and drive yourself nuts trying to control everything. If you haven't done, jump on over to my website, smileyforlife.com/free webinar. And there is a 45-minute webinar by me, and it talks about connection and what I've just said, but it's a deep dive into more detail. And there is also a course in my online learning den called No More Power Struggles, and that is a deep dive into setting healthy boundaries. So that's what that lady didn't have when she just tried to railroad us into a response. She tried to railroad us into a response and made it about her. Yes, Caroline, you hit the nail on the head. It was all about her and not her child. And often that's an enmeshed parent-child relationship. So there's no room for the child in that relationship, because the parent's always making it about them. But I like to believe that a parent is doing that because of the insecurity they feel in here. They feel like they need to be in control, and what triggers them is that their child has gone into an environment that they're not privy to. But then how do they cope with school? Because every day you go to school, you don't know what the teachers are telling them. They've got kids in the playground that are influencing them. You know, you're not, when they get to a certain age, you hope you've done enough work on them, because you're not going to be the only influence in their lives. Whereas up until probably about the age of 5, before they go to school, it's you and their dad, if their dad's still around, or your wider family. Which is why it's really important, if your wider family aren't on board with your parenting style and your choices, and they don't respect you and your boundaries, that makes it really tricky for you and for your child. It's confusing. So yeah, check out the free webinar, but also check out the boundaries course, because that is a deep dive into setting boundaries, just understanding what boundaries are really, and that you're separate from your child. So that's part of having a healthy relationship. But then the course goes even further into how you can use setting boundaries with empathy, so you can still say no without being unkind or without being punishing, and respecting your child's feelings. So mummy can have another ice cream. No, you can't, you've already had one. Kicks off. I'm hearing that you really want an ice cream and you don't like it when I say no. Come and tell me how that makes you feel. But if you don't know how to set boundaries and you find someone asking you for something all the time and you having to say no triggering, I do, because I feel horrible when I say no, which is what I've been taught. But boundaries are there to keep you safe. They're not there to punish the other person. I won't go into it too much because I'm giving the game away, but if you do the course, it's 99 quid. It's brilliant. It's everything I've had to learn from scratch about boundaries in a course for £99, which has taken me 15 years, millions of books and untold hours of therapy to learn. Basically. I'll put the link in for all these helpful things below, but if you're not sure about the course, then I would start off with the webinar and look at my kind of approach to parenting, which is slightly different, so that you don't have to keep rummaging around in the soil, getting your hands dirty and wasting your energy and saying, what is this plant? Why is it not growing? And you're right, Caroline, when you make it about you, you can't see your child and your child doesn't feel seen and heard. But there's an unhealthy attachment there. That's an enmeshment if your child is an extension of you, if you don't see your child as separate from you. So that's what I wanted to say today. And I wanted to say that if you find it hard to be patient as a parent and you've got triggers, and if your child finds it hard, and I don't blame them, because we live in a world of instant gratification where one click and we can buy whatever we want on Amazon, or one click we can play a game on our computer. We don't have to wait. That's a skill that you need to hone and learn. It's a really good skill for life. Because often when we act from our wounded places, often when we're triggered and we act from our wounded places, that doesn't end well. Because we might not be seeing the situation in its entirety. We might just be seeing it from our point of view. Yes, so Energy Pod today, smileyforlife.com/energypod. And if you can't make it today, there's 2 classes today, one at 5 and one at 6, and then there's one at 6:30 on Wednesday. And also, you know, all the classes, plop, 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 put my teeth in, all the classes are recorded. So smileyforlife.com/replay, you can download the replays there, and you can buy bundles of them, as one mum said. She said, oh, it's like binging Netflix. We're going to buy bundles of them and do them throughout the holidays, because you can do them on an iPad, so you can take them with you, and they're fun, you know, they're fun and light-hearted. And it's funny, when the kids watch me on the replay, they talk as if I can hear them, but obviously I can't because it's recorded, but they can still play along. Does that make sense? And does anyone have any questions they want to ask me about triggers or patience or boundaries? Great post, roll on summer hollybobs and special time together with catch-up energy pods. Yeah, Caroline, that is the way to do it. And the summer holidays is special time, isn't it? It's that time to reconnect. And actually, the class I'm going to do before they break up for summer is going to be on the energy of goodbye, because that transition, especially when children are leaving schools, like if they're going to go up to secondary school or they're leaving infants, going to juniors, you're saying goodbye to a whole chapter of your life and familiarity. And yes, it's exciting because you're starting anew, but children who are anxiously attached and don't feel safe, and they will have parents that feel like that, so that's just the legacy that's being passed on, will find transitions hard. I mean, I find it hard to leave the house sometimes, and I'm 44, so there's a confession for you. If I'm not feeling safe, I have to recognise, well, you know, what is unsafe, Lisa? And then I go back to it's the scary people. Well, the scary people aren't here anymore because I'm an adult and I can make choices. But when I'm triggered, the little girl in me goes, scary people, where are all the scary people? Basically. So if you get triggered, you can relate to it. Any questions, my loves? I'm going to go and I'm all ready for class. That was quite an easy class for me to do, because that's something I have to work on all the time. It's being mindful, really, isn't it? And being in the present moment and not leaving your body. I'm also this morning putting together a pilot course for September. I'm looking for 6 to 8 families to work with me on a pilot course. It's a 6-week course. It's going to be live coaching from me and lots of juicy content, and it's going to be on relationships. So it's called How to Be Your Own Best Friend, the course. So I'm going to create a sign-up page for that so people can apply and fill out an application form. And I'm looking for families who are open to dedicating the time to doing the exercises and showing up and doing the work. And I'm going to do it at a reduced rate because obviously it's a pilot course. And then at the end I would probably expect a testimonial or some feedback from you so that I can improve the course, but then that will also help me show other people what the course delivers. And I think the course is going to be around, you know, children who struggle with relationships, struggle with boundaries, they struggle with self-respect, they usually have low self-esteem, they also are people pleasers and they're codependent, they put other people's needs before their own, they take care of other people's feelings. That will start in September. Yeah, it'll be an online course, Caroline, so it will be 6 weeks of content with a private Facebook group where you'll get live coaching from me. So you'll have to do the work and then come into the Facebook group and talk about it. And there'll be like daily challenges or questions for reflection where we can discuss. I mean, I won't overwhelm you because there'll be lots to learn, but you'll do it over 6 weeks and I'll drip feed it to you so it feels manageable. But you just need to be around for the 6 weeks to get involved with the course. Yeah, I'm really excited about that because my biggest work is around, so if a child's got an insecure attachment with a parent, they're going to really struggle with relationships. That's their blueprint, that relationship with that parent, for all their other relationships. So hopefully in the course I'm going to get the parents working on their connection with the child. Then I'm going to get the whole family working on their boundaries, healthy communication, how to ask for what you need, how to say no and hear no, and all those sorts of things which we desperately need, because we need to be able to say to our parents, I need this, and our parents need to be able to say, I'd love to give that to you, but I can't. But equally, they need to do that in a way that feels like we can always ask again. Because then what happens when we're grown-ups, we get into relationships with people that don't respect us and don't meet our needs, and then we get scared to ask for our needs, and then we can't ask for help, and then we get stuck. And also we get frightened of rejection. And we get frightened that we might be shamed for having needs, or made to feel guilty for asking what we want, or feeling like we need to earn things and they're conditional, or I can't take that from you because then I'll have to give something to you in return. Well, no, if that person chooses to give that to you, you don't have to reciprocate if you're unable to at that time. Okay, sounds interesting, as my son's main issue related to his dad not being around during most of his 14 years. Well, that's a shame, Caroline, but that could be really helpful, because that absence isn't about your son, and so it's about validating his experience of an absent parent and letting him know that he's still worthwhile and lovable, and that other people don't define him. And what a lovely gift that would be to give him, don't you think? I think a lot of us felt unseen and unheard in childhood, and that's why if we had parents that made everything about them, there's no space for you in that relationship. There's no space for you, and that's painful as a child, to grow up feeling like you're invisible, you don't matter, or you can't ask for what you want. That is really painful, but that's a massive loss, and that's not what you deserved as a child. It doesn't define you. Yes, so very exciting. So keep your eyes open for my course. I'm putting it together now, and I'll probably put the sign-up list out there in the next few weeks, and then send information out in September during the time. There will be a cost attached to it, but it won't be as much as it will be when it's launched, because it's a pilot. All right, so maybe I'll see some of you at the Energy Pod later, and have a really, really lovely Monday, and take care and stay cool, people. Mwah.